Okay, so on screen are 4 different questions, all from step papers, all a slight bit different, but all testing pretty much the same thing, number theory. Now, I got a recent comment that said they would like me to do a video on number theory, and I thought, my number theory skills aren't up to scratch. I'm going to go away and do a load of questions and see what insights I can take away from them. And what I saw was number theory questions in STEP are very deceptive. They look super simple. They use really small words, they use short equations that look very simple, but they are testing something very specific. And if you don't know what to do, you kind of just spiral. Now, what they are actually testing is they're testing your understanding of the nature of numbers. Now, it's often a particular subset of numbers. It's either like the integers themselves, or it could be odd numbers, primes is a common example, or maybe like powers of 2. And then you develop a property or an insight into those numbers. A common example of this is using the Diophantine equation. Way too fancy of a name for what it is. It's nothing special, it's just an equation that has integer solutions. So something like this on screen, and all you have to do is actually find a solution to it with integer solutions, but that's often harder than it seems. But most number theory questions are actually just a variation on these Diophantine equations. They use it in some kind of form. But what do I actually want? I want by the end of this video for you to know exactly how to spot a number theory question and either attempt it or run in the opposite direction. And I'm also going to give you 3 core concepts that you actually need to be able to practice and understand to be able to actually attempt them, so that you're not actually just running in the opposite direction. Hopefully you're actually going to have a go at them. But stick around to the end and I'll leave you with a few step questions on the screen that you should be able to have a go at straight after this video. If you're ready, let's get straight into it. Now, before we talk about how to actually solve these questions, we need to talk about what they actually are, because most students get it a little bit wrong. Number theory isn't really about just memorizing obscure theorems. That's left for university. And it's not about just remembering a trick and knowing how to use it out the middle of nowhere. What it actually tests is a bit more simple than that. It tests whether you can construct a logical argument, whether you can actually really understand what divisibility means and how to use prime factorization properly. Can you express numbers as prime factorizations and understand what that means? Now, you can also use modular arithmetic with some sort of control. And can you bound things and trap variables between different numbers, telling you what their solutions might be? And then can you build like a constructive example or counterexample when you actually need to? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to build these 3 core concepts that apply to the vast majority of STEP number theory questions. I'm going to go through each one properly, not just what it is, but I'm going to be using an example question that will give you a bit of insight on how to use these theorems. Okay, so first off is division and definitions, but this definitions is applicable to all the stuff we do here. And it's where most students go a little bit wrong. When a STEP question says A divides B, they want you to actually write that down and understand what it means. Not just wave at it, not just assume it, write it down. A divides B means that there exists an integer k such that B equals A times k. It's obvious, but that's it. But what does it give you? It gives you an equation that you can use. It gives you a new variable, gives you something to substitute. And when you write it down as a definition, you have somewhere to go with it. This is one of the common mistakes I see students make, especially in number theory. They get all these ideas, but they don't bring it together. They don't use the definitions and plug them in, work out what they can find out about these numbers. What can they find out about that equation? Don't do that. Don't be like that. Use those definitions, walk through it, see what you can work out. Okay, so next up is modular arithmetic. Now, it's probably not something you're used to using very much. You've probably used it. You remember the 11 questions where you need to say that, I don't know, n equals 2k plus 1. That's modular arithmetic in disguise. You've seen it at A level, but you're not used to using it in STEP. The point of working with modulo is that it allows us to eliminate possibilities. You're shrinking the problem down into different cases, cutting away at the noise. The modulus you choose becomes very important then. You might need to use modulo 2, modulo 3, it depends on the question. Let me give you a classic example. Mod 2, it gives you parity, odd and even. It's something you've used before, n equals 2k plus 1 or n equals 2k. It allows us to split the cases into 2, and if you can eliminate both independently, you've done it for everything. That is the point in modulo. It allows us to limit the options, to break it down. You're doing it to eliminate options. If you can show that one side of an equation is always 1 mod 4 and the other side is always 3 mod 4, you're kind of done. No solution exists. Those two things can't be true. You can't be 3 modulo 4 and 1 modulo 4 at the same time. That's the power of using this. It breaks down the cases, and it also allows us to look at two sides of an equation and go, those two don't match up. There is no solution. Okay, now the final technique, or the final concept, is factorization. It's kind of an odd one. It's something that you've probably thought way more about at GCSE, and then you get to A level and then it's like, it's a bit in the background. But I'm not thinking about it as a mechanical skill like factorization when you're trying to solve a quadratic, because you've done that plenty, but it's a way of seeing structures of numbers. They love doing this in number theory. The classic move is something like difference of squares. A squared minus b squared equals a minus b, a plus b. Or there might be something like, I don't know, difference of cubes, sum of cubes. Or maybe a clever rearrangement where you move everything to one side and you force a product, and then on the other side you might have a prime factor. Now, the key part of this for STEP is prime factorization. It's incredibly useful because if you know there is a prime factor on one side of the equation, then you must have that same prime factor on the other side. If you've got a multiple of 13 on one side, the other side has to have a multiple of 13. Only way it works when we're doing integer stuff in number theory. But what should you learn from this? Train yourself to ask 2 questions every time you look at a number theory question. Can I force a product somewhere that will give me some clarity? If you can write something such as a times b equals c, where c is a very specific number, that tells you something about a and b. Again, if c is 13, then either a or b must be 13. It's the only way it works. Second, what prime factors are involved here? Do they force a and b to be something? Just as I said before. Now, you can even think of a simple case such as 3x equals 2y. When x and y are integers, that actually tells us something. It tells us that y must have a factor of 3 and x must also have a factor of 2. It allows us to simplify the problem. Okay, so those are the 3 concepts that we need to do, but let's have a little bit of a walkthrough of some relatively simple equations that could be on STEP, but probably will be a bit extended. First, let's consider the equation n squared equals 3m squared. Now, what do we actually know about n? Well, because the right-hand side is a multiple of 3, then n squared on the left-hand side must also be a multiple of 3. Got to have 3's on both sides. Now, by prime factorization, since n squared must contain a 3, then n must also contain a 3. It's the only way that works. So what we can actually do is, again, the important part, is we can say, well, n equals 3k. Then what we get is we get 9k squared equals 3m squared. And we can narrow it down a little bit. We can get 3k squared equals m squared. And then that looks a bit similar to what we had at the start, except it's now flipped round. But let's continue, we can repeat again. And we can now say that m must also be a multiple of 3. So we can write m equals 3l. And then we repeat, and we get down to k squared equals 3l squared. And then we can repeat, and every time we get a smaller number. And you can kind of see here that because we're getting a small number every time, there will be no solution to this equation. There is no minimal case. Now, this is called a minimal counterexample. Assume there is a smaller solution to this problem. Let's call it a and b. Then by this method above, we can always find another smaller solution. So we have a contradiction because there is no smallest solution. And therefore, by that contradiction, there is no integer solution to this question. And here we've both used division and prime factorization for this question. Okay, on to the second question. Take this, 3x plus 1, y minus 7 equals 39, where both x and y have to be positive integers. From this starting point, we can kind of go, oh, well, there's infinitely many solutions, so I've got 2 variables, 1 equation. But it's not true when we have positive integers. We have to have integers, remember. So what can we actually spot from this? Well, the right-hand side only has 2 possible decompositions. It's either 13 times 3 or 39 times 1. So we've very quickly limited down our options because either 3x plus 1 equals 13 and y minus 7 equals 3, or 3x plus 1 equals 3 and y minus 7 equals 7, or 3x plus 1 equals 1 and y minus 7 equals 39, or finally 3x plus 1 equals 39 and y minus 7 equals 1. Now what we've done is we've taken our infinite possibilities and we've used logic to say there's only actually 4 possible options here because of that prime factorization. And now from here, I'll leave it up to you to find x and y. It's left as an exercise to the reader. Always wanted to say that. I hated my university textbooks. Anyway, what I wanted to say is essentially number theory in STEP isn't about just being brilliant. It's not about understanding everything immediately. It's about slowing down and using logic to know what you can work out about these integers using that division and prime factorization. So here's what I want you to do after this video. On screen now should be a list of both step 2 and step 3 questions you should be able to have an attempt at after this video. So go away, have an attempt at each of them, and if you get stuck, take some time. Don't immediately give up and look at the solution. Take some time, give it a few days, come back and have another go. And if you're really stuck, come back here, leave a question in the comments. Either me or somebody else in the comments will answer it for you. But here's what I also want you to do. Write it up properly. Then read your solution back as if you're an examiner. Remember, our solutions need to be readable by an examiner. Is every step justified? Is it clear what you're actually doing? If not, rewrite it. That rewrite is where you start to learn how to write properly and also where you memorize how to understand these questions. Now, I hope that was useful. Please subscribe. I'm looking to get more subscribers, nearly at 1.5K. And I'm building a full series on step techniques across as many topics as I can do. So if there is a topic you want, please put it in the comments and I'll get to it eventually. I got to this one somewhat quickly. But yes, thanks you for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye.